Over the years, the most asked question in pretty much every game, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Tarkov, Delta Force, whatever it may be for a shooting game, even non-shooting games. You go play like Hearthstone. What's the best deck? What's the best weapon? What is the meta? What should I be using? I want to win. People do not want to die and lose their stuff, especially in an extraction-based game where you lose all the stuff you had on you. Totally understandable. Now, I like to go outside the meta and use fun things here and there, like just more of the C tier stuff that's usable but not great. But often I try to stick to what's best when it comes to extraction games because just like you guys, I want to keep the stuff I collected, right? And I thought a great video would be a tier list. Not like my other videos with gameplay for Delta Force, but a tier list on what is good, what is bad, and why they're good and bad. I'll explain the weapons. I'm going to be going off of the operations mode though, the extraction side. If you want, if this video does well and you guys like this and it's helpful, I could do the warfare side as well. I'm Field Marshal in Warfare. I'm God of War in Operations. I've played both quite a bit. I know the weapons are different in each mode. And also, this is indicative of Season 3, technically. It's Season 2, I guess, for the US, but we're calling it Season 3. So in the future, if you're watching this video, it might not be super accurate because they do a decent amount of weapon balancing. For example, in Season 1 in Warfare, the CL or the CI-19 was the top dog rifle. It's still okay, it's still good, but it was nerfed pretty heavily because it was so much better than other things. So that may happen in the future, just a heads up. But without further ado, let's put them into the categories. Basically, I have it set up as you will pretty much always win your gunfight if you shoot at somebody and they shoot at somebody in the optimal situation of your weapon. And I'm going to explain that while we're going through them. Then I have win most. This is like S tier, A tier, B, C, D. All right, like really bad guns. You probably will not win a gunfight unless you get the first 5 or 6 shots. And starting off, I mean, AK-12, this is a bad gun. If you guys have done the challenges for the AK-12, you have to kill operators past 30 meters. This gun is not very good. You typically have to get the first few shots with it, and it's mainly because the gun has to be very expensive to be usable for low recoil, but also because it's chambered in 5.45, and that is just a really weak ammo type in the game at the moment. So the AK-12, it is one of the bottom tier guns of the game, and it sucks when you have to do the challenges for it. You'll see if you do it. Going on to the AKM. Win most. I will not put the AKM in S tier. I know a lot of people like it. The downside of the AKM, even though it has a pretty good damage range, is the recoil pattern. The AKM pulls down for the first like 3 bullets, which is very weird. When you're playing any shooting game out there, you're typically used to pulling down yourself to counteract the vertical recoil. This gun has no vertical recoil for the first 3 or 4 bullets, which makes it pretty popular for a lot of people to get double headshots because they just try to like burst it in the first 4 or 5 shots continually. But it throws off a lot of good players. They just do not like the AKM. And that's why I do not put it in the win always category. It is an A tier gun. It is strong, it is good, it is usable, especially if you're not the best with aiming. You're just doing like the 4 to 5 shot burst, but in terms of the best weapons, it will still lose. It will still lose. The AS Val. This dominated Call of Duty back in Modern Warfare 19, and in this game, it is no exception. It is a win always weapon. The only problem with the AS Val is it is a close range gun. This is not a gun that you will win always with if you're outdoors shooting at distance. It cannot do that. But in the close range, this gun will kill just about as fast as anything in the game. And I want to actually show you this. In the game, in Delta Force, you can go in and you can set the armor on dummies and you can set the ammo and the weapon that you're using and shoot the dummies at whatever distance you want to shoot them at, and it will show you the kill time of weapons. So you can accurately, micromanage down to the 0.0 whatever seconds you want how fast these weapons are killing. The Val indoors, though, is an absolute melt machine. It will kill people so damn fast. The Kar-15. This is a win some, lose some weapon. It is a win some, lose some weapon. The Kar-15 is not a strong weapon. It shoots 5.56, which is not the best ammo type in the game right now. It's not that strong in Season 3, but it is a low recoil gun. And it is a pretty cheap gun, so people can build it pretty cheaply with low recoil. And if you get a few bullets that are good headshots, or maybe because you get the first shot or two, you'll win your gunfight with the Car 15. So it's not a good gun if you're going to shoot at an AKM at the same time an AKM shoots at you, you're going to lose probably. But it's not the worst gun in the game, and it is a usable weapon especially. The CI-19. This is a win some, lose some weapon as well. This is definitely a stronger gun than the Car 15, but after the nerf in Season 1 to the CI-19, even though it was nerfed mainly in Warfare, it was nerfed in Operations as well. They added a lot of, I guess, weapon instability, like firing stability. They lowered it while you're firing, so it kind of jumps a bit. And on top of that, they added more horizontal recoil. So the gun just became a lot weaker overall. It's not a very good long distance gun. It's just a middle of the road weapon. It is fun to use. You do have some challenges. The seasonal quests have that weapon on there. It's kind of in the middle, if I'm going to be fair, of win some, lose some, and win most. I wouldn't put it near the AKM, but it's definitely better than the Car 15. So the K416, win some, lose some as well. This gun is a very high fire rate 5.56 rifle with pretty low recoil. The downside of the weapon, low damage range, so it drops off very quickly. This is another gun that's kind of similar to the AS Val, where you have to use it indoors or use it in the mid-range at best, except the Val is much, much better than it. It's much better. There's not a lot of good 5.56 weapons in the game right now. They're just not there. So the M16, I'm actually going to put the M16, I want to put it in win most because I like this gun, but that would be a little bit of favoritism. It's probably a win some, lose some gun. In the close range, you're going to get beat with this gun. I mean, it's not very good in the close range. You probably need to have a secondary like an SMG or just a pistol maybe with rip ammo to fight people in the close range. But the M16 in the mid range and even in the long range is very good. Even though this gun also shoots 5.56, just like the K4 and the Car 15, this gun has much better damage range to it. Much better. And way lower recoil at distance as well. The upside as well with the M16 is that if you double heady somebody or triple heady them, they will just die. So if you're using gold ammo and you triple headshot a gold helmet, it will kill them outright. And it's very low recoil. So for the Call of Duty fans out there that played maybe COD, I mean, picture like the M8. It's kind of like that. It is a very good pick weapon. The M4A1. Excuse me. The M4A1 is a staple in every game out there. I honestly kind of want to put it up here as well. The M4 is basically the full auto M16, right? That's what this gun is in the real world. It's what it is in the game as well. This gun also has extraordinarily good range for a 5.56 gun and pretty low recoil. I actually prefer the M4 over the K4, even though in the close range, the K4 is better. This is more of an all-arounder weapon. It works. You will win some gunfights, but you will probably lose against the best guns in the game. And the best right now you're seeing is the AS Val, the AKM, but we have more to come. The PTR, usable. I like the PTR. Personally, I think it's a pretty damn good budget weapon in operations. It can be built very cheaply, but it does pretty heavily rely on headshots, and it doesn't have the lowest recoil. So the PTR, even though I put it in the usable category, you're probably better off with all the guns above it. Except maybe the Car 15. This is just a low recoil weapon. Also, this is like the same thing as the PTR, honestly. The difference is the Car 15 is lower recoil. So it's a little bit easier to hit the headshots you're going for. The QBZ. Win some, lose some. This rifle is a very low recoil rifle. It is favored by a lot of people on budget builds. It's also one of the main rifles in ticket kits. So you get a lot of use out of it. A lot of people do use it, but it's just not that strong. It's just a low recoil, decent all-arounder rifle. Very similar to the M4. It's probably, pound for pound equal in terms of kill time. So QBZ's up there. I still prefer the M4. I don't know why, but I know it's about a win some, lose some weapon. Again, this gun will win gunfights, especially if you hit headshots, or you get the first few bullets against some of the best guns. But if you shoot at the same time as some of the best guns, they're going to smoke you. The SG, you might need a miracle. This gun is awful in operations. I think it is a marshmallow shooter. It is one of the weakest weapons in the game. Just do not use this. I know it's low recoil. High fire rate, but it is the weakest gun. And it's just not, it has low armor pen too, I'm pretty sure. So it's just not worth using, in my opinion. Not worth using the SG. Avoid that one. AUG, put the AUG in the usable category. I am not an AUG fan. I know people do like this gun, and they might put it up here in this category, but I feel like this one already has a lot of guns, and so I'm putting it down 1. Because if I had to choose between an AUG and the CI, the K4, the M16, M4, I'm definitely choosing these guns up here. I could use the QBZ as well. Not a huge fan of the QBZ, but it's still definitely better than the AUG in my opinion. AUG is low recoil, but it just doesn't do anything really extraordinary. It's pretty much just a worse version than a few of these guns up top. So, the G3, that is a perfect example of a win some, lose some gun. The G3 is a very good budget 7.62 rifle. It is essentially a cheaper version of a SCAR, and it does everything worse than a SCAR. A little bit lower damage, a little bit lower fire rate, a little bit more recoil, but the G3 is a cheap 7.62 weapon, and it can be used pretty effectively. You will win some gunfights with this weapon, you will lose some, frankly. It is a very all-arounder rifle for 7.62. M7. God, it's up there. It's really up there. I put the M7 in the win always category. This is one of the fastest kill times in the game, very high fire rate. The problem with the M7 is after the most recent changes to weaponry in the game, you had to pretty much balance this gun by lowering the handling to the point where it's very slow reaction time. But if a lot of times you know where people are, whether you have your headset that you heard them, or they shot their gun, or you have a Luna on your team that arrowed them, or whatever it might be, you're already aiming down sight. The M7, when it's aiming down sight, I don't think anything can beat it in the game when it comes to close, mid, long range, all around there. The VAL will beat it, don't get me wrong. In the close range, the VAL will beat the M7. But the M7 is definitely more usable past 20, 30 feet, up to 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, this gun will kill you. It's very, very strong. It's very good. It was, I think, the best weapon in the game, but after the weapon nerfs overall, it made this a little bit harder to use. Still good though. The SCAR. Win always. The SCAR is the best 7.62 weapon in the game. It was a monster during the alpha. It was a monster during the beta. It is a monster now. It is one of the lowest recoil weapons there is. It is extremely easy to use. It hits like a cannon. I mean, generally speaking, the SCAR is a top tier all-arounder rifle, and it can also shoot very long distances. A lot of times with the SCAR, we use a 1.5 to 5 times sight, and you can even go in on the 5 times sight and still hit people pretty accurately. So the SCAR is a win always gun. If you land your shots with this, you should be winning. M14, Marksman rifles, yes, a win always weapon as well. Why did this go away? Go away. What is that? There we go. M14, this is the fastest killing weapon in the game. It is a 2-bullet to the headshot. It is crazy quick to kill, and it has a 800 RPM, 750 RPM. And that's because the M14 in this game can be put into full auto. So if you haven't used it, yes, full auto this gun. If you're using the Mini 14, it does not full auto. The M14 does though. This gun is a beat everything weapon, god tier. Again, kind of the same problem as the M7. After the weapon change and adding more shake and more recoil overall, it's a gun that you have to build very heavily in favor of control and stability, and you lower the handling down to the point where it makes it more difficult. Alternatively, you can build it with better handling, but you're limiting the range of your weapon, which isn't a big deal all the time, because the M14, even though it is a very fast killing weapon, it does not have very good range. It's got about 50 meters, and then the damage drop off is kind of heavy on it. It doesn't do well at distance. The Mini 14. I like the Mini 14 personally. I'm going to probably put it in the win some, lose some category. The reason for this is because the Mini 14, it cannot be spammed like the M14. It is a single fire semi-auto marksman rifle, but it has the highest damage range in the game for a marksman rifle / rifle. And so when you hit people, you hit them for full damage at pretty much any distance you're shooting at, within respect. It's 100 meters, right? Which is pretty far in the game to be firing at people. It's a pretty easy gun to shoot and stay accurate with. And it also does not require a lot of money to build. So it's a win some, lose some gun. Well, if people jump on you in the close range, you are probably not winning shit with this weapon. But if you keep people at a respectable range, this gun can easily pick people off with head glitch or on head glitches and just 2-tap, 3-tap them, you know? The PSG, man, There's going to be a lot of them in this category. I apologize. The win some, lose some category. The PSG is a good weapon, but it's not going to be the best of the heavier hitting sniper marksman rifles. It's just a worse SR25. I still like the PSG, but it's definitely a worse version. The SKS is usable. This is a quick, easy one here. Not used very heavily. It's just not. It's not that great. It's mainly because it's easy to miss. And when you miss with a gun that shoots this kind of this slow, it's pretty punishing. Also, obviously, it's not a great close range weapon. Neither is the PSG. Your SR25, I'm going to put in the win most category. This is the best version of the marksman rifle, sniper rifle combination thing. I know it's not a marksman rifle, I guess, but a sniper rifle, maybe it is a marksman. I can't remember. Anyways, the point stands. It's the best version of it. It's the fastest firing. It actually matches the PSG with the rapid fire trigger. It has one of the most easily controllable recoil patterns. It's very, very good. It's very common on Leali Grove. This is your best bet when you're fighting at distance. Again, reiterate, a lot of these guns are within their respective ranges. Not the best close range weapon. It's not. Typically, people who run marksman rifles like this or sniper rifles like this, they're going to have a G18 with backup ammo. They're going to have a 93R with purple ammo. They're going to have a Vector or an SMG. They're not expecting to use this in the close range. Most good players, I would say all good players don't. Most players will not try to use this in the close range. And by I mean close, I mean like on top of one another, right? The SR9, this is one of the new weapons in the game. It is very cheap and it is awful. It is definitely worse than your other options here. Just don't use this gun. I don't need to summarize it for you. I don't need to tell you why exactly. It is just worse than everything else you already could be using. Do not use that weapon, even though it's cheap. The SVD is a usable gun. It is better than an SKS. It is a little bit faster firing rate, easier to spam. It is one of the only rifles that has red ammo available for a individual headshot, which is great. But it's still an SVD, and it is easy to die with this weapon if you miss your shots. So, downside. The VSS, usable gun. The VSS and the AS-Val actually have the same benefit, that it is the lowest audible range for a weapon in Delta Force. So if you are trying to farm bots and avoid combat, the weapons aren't bad to use for you. But the VSS is also not a great fighting weapon. It hits hard, but the bullet velocity is so awful that if people are moving or strafing, you have to kind of lead your shot, even when they're not very far. And it's honestly, it has the exact same problem in Warfare. It's just the bullet velocity is bad. The M249. Man, this is a hard one. I'm gonna put this in the usable category. It could go up in the mid, the win some, lose some. It could be in the middle here, but the M249 is not the best LMG. It's a 5.56 LMG again, so 5.56 ammo just doesn't perform that well. It is high fire rate, but it's also kind of a decent amount of recoil, and it just doesn't kill all that quick. So it's just a middle tier, usable but not that great. Not easy to hit headshots with weapon, you know. M250, on the other hand, win always weapon. This is an S tier gun. The balance of the M250 is that it has a bolt delay when you fire. So when you pull the trigger with it, it doesn't react right away. It's slightly delayed, like 1/100th of a second or something. And so it's hard to hit people if they're jiggle peeking you, or if they're just, they're only showing themselves for a second in some way. It's very hard to react and then add that extra 100 seconds onto it, 100 milliseconds, I'm sorry, and then hit your shots. If they're out in the open and you're taking a gunfight with them, this gun will almost always win. Almost always. Even without headshots, it is a monster. It is a cannon. It hits very hard. Another downside of the weapon, obviously, is that it's very heavy. So it will slow down your character's movement because you'll constantly be overweight while carrying just a lot of weight, I guess is the best way to word that. Between your chest rig, your backpack, your weapon, it weighs you down. It'll slow your overall character movement. PKM, win some, lose some gun. It's a middle of the road LMG. It's not the worst. It's not the best, but it is low recoil and it hits decently hard. So it's an okay gun. It doesn't see a lot of use though. Frankly, it just isn't. The tryhards will use the M250, and the middle of the road players will not build out a PKM typically. So it's just kind of like it sits there, you know. The shotguns, the M1014, usable. I'm actually going to just sum this up real quick here. All the shotguns are in the usable category, but they are all very limited. Very limited. Even though the shotguns with buckshot, like blue buckshot, are some of the fastest killing weapons in the game, you have to shoot their legs, and it is very difficult to put yourself in a situation where you're able to use it effectively, especially against a full team of 3. So they are usable. It is just not ideal a lot of the time, no matter which one you use. You can argue that slugs make them a little bit better, but realistically, a shotgun with slug in this game is just like one in Call of Duty. It's just a worse version of a sniper rifle. So the shotguns don't hold up all that well. They're usable within the range you want to use them, but they are very limiting. Oh, the AKS-12. Man, I mean, this gun is, you might need a miracle. This is another just not a very good weapon. It does not hit hard. It is mostly a bot gun. You pick this gun up off of robots or new players that were trying Warfare, because this gun is okay in Warfare. It is not good in operations. The main benefit in Warfare is that the magazine size is big. So that's where it sits. You don't want to use that gun very often. The Bison, kind of the same boat. I don't dislike the Bison in terms of recoil. It's very easy to control, but the Bison does not have a lot of attachments that help benefit the gun. And the main upside of it is ammo capacity, which isn't really a positive in operations. You don't need a large magazine for 3 people with the fire rate of the Bison. You just don't. So I would not recommend the Bison all that much. It is a usable gun, but technically, if you get into a gunfight with people, even in the close range, you're going to lose to a lot of the SMGs and the better, higher fire rate weapons like the K4 or the Val. MP5. MP5 is actually a win some, lose some gun in my mind. I like the MP5. It is one of the better SMGs. Unfortunately, RIP ammo got nerfed recently. Probably actually fortunately. To be honest, people did not like RIP ammo. They don't like it now. It was a pretty good RIP SMG. It still is, but it was nerfed a bit. It's not a very good gun past about, I don't know, 15, 20 meters. SMGs in general, you cannot use them long distance. This gun is meant to be played basically with Viron or someone that can just get on top of you and fight you in the close range, maybe even just hip fire you. So the MP5 is good, but it is not a good distance weapon. SMGs obviously are like that. MP7, I would say this is a win most SMG. It still isn't going to win, obviously, at the distance game because it's an SMG, but it is a weapon that you can use gold ammo with. So the MP5 is 9x19. There is no such thing as gold 9x19 the current season. The MP7 will let you use gold ammo. I think it's 5.7 ammo. I forget, but I think so. So the MP7 is a much more usable SMG at the range that you're going to be using it. You don't have to jump on people as much. You can aim down sight and use it. Still, SMG limited range. P90, usable gun. I'm not a fan of the P90. It has a lot of shake to it. It is a rip weapon at best, so not the top tier. It's just, yeah, it doesn't really fit when you want to use it. In terms of SMG, it doesn't really do a great job. I think you can use gold ammo with the P90 as well, but it is definitely just worse than the MP7. The new SMG, the QCQ, this is more of a usable gun. The nice part about the QCQ is that it has a pretty respectable damage range for an SMG, and it has a pretty good headshot multiplier and damage overall with the fire rate. So you have to build this gun very expensive, which is the downside of it. It's like a 600k or 500k SMG when fully built, but it has good odds of killing people. Funny enough, the SMG 45, I mean, it's a win some lose some SMG as well, but it does not have gold ammo, just like I said for the other SMGs. And even though this gun is a monster in Warfare, it is not as good in operations. It's very low recoil. It's just the fact that it doesn't have gold ammo, so it doesn't keep up. And because this gun has really low recoil, it kind of gives you the false sense that you can shoot at distance when the damage drop off is really bad. So you're like, oh, why I'm owning, and you're not actually doing enough damage to fight at the range that you're fighting at. So it kind of a false sense of hope on that weapon. SR3M, I actually would put this, goodness, probably in the win most category with the MP7. These two are the top SMGs for sure. You can use gold ammo with the SR3M, very low recoil, easy hip fire, overall good SMG. Again, SMG. So the Val is a very similar fire rate and kill potential as the SMGs are in the same range, with also additional range. It'll go a little bit further even because it's a rifle. So this is why the Val is above these. These are just SMGs in the category. I think so far this is a pretty damn good list, to be honest. These are the most usable weapons in the game. This is what you're going to see the most of by the top players for sure. Uzi, usable gun. This is a gun that has decent fire rate. It's okay with rip ammo, but it's not the best. By far, it's probably like the third or fourth best SMG for rip ammo. And without rip ammo, it's not good. You don't use it. It's 9x19, so no gold ammo. Not the easiest recoil, and definitely not the best attachments overall. So, Vector! The Vector is a win most SMG. Despite the fact it shoots 45 ACP, just like the SMG 45, no gold ammo for it. It is a 1100 round per minute weapon. It shoots so fast. They actually nerfed this gun specifically with RIP recently. So it is still a very fast killing RIP weapon, but it was nerfed because it was overperforming drastically. It is still a win most SMG. Of the best SMGs, those are the three you will see and use. Besides that, though, we have the last one, which is the Vityaz. This is a win some, lose some SMG. Only because of one thing. The Vityaz is very easy to build and use rip ammo with. So it is by far one of the most common rip ammo weapons, even though they just nerfed the hip fire of the gun pretty drastically. It is an easy gun to aim down sight and still aim for the legs with. So it is used pretty often. If you get the first few bullets with rip ammo on somebody with this weapon, you are almost surely going to win. So that's why it sits up in the middle tier list. As far as the snipers go, the AWM is a win always weapon. This is a one shot to the chest of any armor value. Unfortunately, the ammo it takes is red, and it is only produced or gotten from quests. It's expensive, and yeah, you don't see people run this very often because of that. Most people are saving their AWM and their AWM ammo for hard mode. Most people, which is like the highest tier that's not currently in the game on the international client. So, M700. The snipers, here's the thing about the snipers. These are all weapons that can win most of the time if you hit your shot. It's that simple. If you have a sniper with a scope on it and are using gold ammo, you will headshot and kill pretty much every player you hit, like you're able to hit, bearing that they're not wearing a 50 durability gold helmet. You will not kill that. But the other ones, you will. So it's hard to like classify the snipers. It's a win some, lose some weapon technically because it's kind of a high stakes weapon. The AWM is the exception because you can shoot body and one-shot people. These are all weapons that you have to hit headshots with. So it's hard to say. If you can land your shots, the sniper can be the best weapon in the game and one of the most cost-effective. You can build it for like 80K and you can kill full gold people very easily if you land your shot. Alternatively, if you miss, you just die over and over. So it's hard to classify the snipers. It's really a down to your skill level situation on that one. But that about wraps that up. I think that's a really good list, actually. This is definitely what you're going to see the best players use. There's a lot of win some, lose some weapons, which I think is probably really healthy for the game. And then there's a lot of guns that could probably see a little bit better improvement. The problem is a lot of these weapons are very hard to improve upon without making insanely unbalanced or taking the place of another weapon. So like if you buffed the SKS, you're basically making it an SVD. If you buff the AUG or the PTR, it's going to be pretty similar to a lot of these other rifles. So I don't know. It's hard for them to balance certain things in the game without making them basically carbon copies of other weapons that are already in the game. The shotguns, I personally think you could probably add gold ammo in for shotguns, gold slug. And that would be, like I said, it would make it a bit better, but it's still technically just a worse sniper in my mind in that case. So I don't think it would hurt that much. I would not do gold buckshot. That would be absurd. But gold slug would be okay. Besides that, I hope it helps. If you guys enjoyed the video, if it helped out, leave a like, subscribe. I'd love to have you back. And if you would like the Warfare version of this tier list, I can happily make that too. Like I said, I'm Field Marshal in Warfare both seasons. I play both modes, and I have a pretty good understanding of what's good, what's bad, and what you want to use. So thank you again for watching, and until next video.